Thomas Alive Today presents
Blockbuster. Blockbuster's beginnings can be traced back to another company, Cook Data Services, founded by David Cook in 1978. The company's primary goal was to supply software services to the oil and gas industries throughout Texas, but it was very unsuccessful. Sandy Cook, David's wife, wanted to get into the video business, and her husband would soon study the industry and future prospects. Using profit he made from the sale of David P. Cook and Associates, the subsidiary of his company, he decided to buy into a video store franchise in Dallas known as Video Works. When Video Works would not allow him to decorate the interior of his store with a blue and yellow design, he departed the franchise and opened the first Blockbuster Video in 1985 under his own company, Blockbuster Video Inc. When he realized the potential in video rentals, Cook abandoned the oil industry and began franchising the Blockbuster Video Store. The first Blockbuster Video Store opened on October 19, 1985 in Dallas, Texas, with an inventory of 8,000 VHS and 2,000 beta tapes. Cook's experience with managing huge databases proved helpful in driving innovation within the industry. Following early success from the company's first stores, Cook built a $6 million warehouse in Garland, Texas to help sustain and support future growth that allowed new stores to open quickly. Blockbuster Video would often custom tailor a store's inventory to its neighborhood based on local demographics. The standard business model for video rental stores had traditionally been to pay a large flat fee per video, approximately $65, and offer unlimited rentals for the lifetime of the medium itself. Sumner Redstone, whose Viacom conglomerate then owned Blockbuster Video, personally pioneered a new revenue-sharing arrangement for video in the mid-1980s. Blockbuster Video obtained videos for little cost and kept 60% of the rental fee, paying the other 40% to the movie studio and reporting rental information through the global media measurement and research company Rentrack. In addition to benefiting from a lower initial price, Blockbuster Video also capitalized on the fact that movies were generally not available for purchase at affordable price points during initial release periods. Thus, customers had a choice to rent, wait, or buy the film on tape at the much higher manufacturer's suggested retail price targeted at other rental chains and film enthusiasts, which at that time ranged between $70 to $100 per title. Blockbuster Video stores followed a strategy of emphasizing access to the most popular new releases, obtaining early access and stocking many copies of the new release titles with a relatively smaller depth of selection than traditional independent video stores. Much of the shelf space in the stores was devoted to popular titles that were placed relatively sparsely on the shelves, with the entire front cover visible so customers could browse casually and quickly rather than having a more diverse selection with fewer copies of each title. Blockbuster sometimes contracted with studios to obtain earlier access to new titles than other companies could achieve. Examples of such contracts were those in which Blockbuster Video became the exclusive rental chain for new releases from WWE, Funimation, Rhino, Paramount, DreamWorks, DWA, Universal, Lionsgate, Summit, Anchor Bay, Manga, The Weinstein Company, Dimension, Miramax, Hollywood, Touchstone, Disney, Buena Vista, 20th Century Fox, MGM/UA, Orion, Sony, Columbia, TriStar, Image, Shout Factory, Warner Brothers, HBO, New Line Cinema, and Illumination Film Works. As one commentator complained, Blockbuster Video was once an unstoppable giant whose franchises swept across the country, putting most but not all mom-and-pop video stores out of business left and right by offering a larger selection of new releases, pricing them at a lower point due to the volume. Gone were the fragmented, independently owned shops that were often unorganized treasure troves of VHS discoveries. In their place were walls of new releases, hundreds of copies of a small handful of films, everyone watching the same thing, everyone developing the same limited set of expectations. They put focus entirely on what was new rather than on discovering film history. When a title was no longer a new release, each store would retain a few copies of it and typically sell off the rest as previously viewed for discounted prices. Older movies would be recategorized as Blockbuster favorite titles and placed in a different area of the store. Most Blockbuster locations also accepted trade-ins of used movies, TV shows, and games. Since Blockbuster's founding in 1985, the chain refused to stock any adult XXX films in order to portray the brand as family-friendly. However, the company did carry R-rated and unrated films. In 1987, Waste Management co-founder Wayne Huizinga, who originally had reservations about entering the video rental industry, agreed to acquire several Blockbuster stores. At that point the number of stores numbered 19, attracting Huizinga's associate John Melk's attention due to its efficiency, family-friendly, no-porn image and business model. Huizinga and Melk utilized techniques from their waste business and Ray Kroc's model of expansion to rapidly expand Blockbuster Video, and soon they were opening a new store every 24 hours. They took over many of the existing Blockbuster Video franchise stores, and Huizinga spent much of the late 1980s acquiring several of Blockbuster's rivals, including Major Video. In 1989, Nintendo attempted to halt Blockbuster's ability to rent video games, filing multiple lawsuits and lobbying the U.S. Congress to ban the practice. Nintendo ultimately lost the battle, which paved the way for future video game rentals at all Blockbuster Video franchise stores. In 1990, Blockbuster went on a buying spree by buying Mid-Atlantic rival Errol's, which had more than 250 stores. In 1992, Blockbuster acquired the Sound Warehouse and Music Plus music retail chains and created Blockbuster Music. In October 1993, Blockbuster took a controlling interest in Spelling Entertainment Group, a media company run by television producer Aaron Spelling. Blockbuster purchased Super Club Retail Entertainment Corp. on November 22, 1993 from Philips Electronics NV for 5.2 million shares of Blockbuster stock. This brought approximately 270 Record Bar Tracks, Turtles and Rhythm and Views music stores and approximately 160 video retail superstores into the corporation. It also owned 35% of Republic Pictures. That company merged with Spelling in April 1994. Blockbuster became a multi-billion-dollar company, but Huizinga was worried about how new technology could threaten their business, such as video on demand and the growth of cable television. In 1991, just 3 days after Time Warner had announced it would upgrade its cable system, Blockbuster's shares dropped more than 10%. In 1993, he made an attempt to expand into other areas by investing in Viacom. Huizinga also considered buying a cable company, but this was unknown territory for Blockbuster and he decided not to take the risk. He also had the idea of a 2,500-acre Blockbuster sports and amusement park in Florida, something Blockbuster was still considering as late as August 1994. Unable to come up with a proper solution about how to face the growing threats to the traditional video store, he made the decision to sell Blockbuster to Viacom and pull out. Viacom acquired Blockbuster in 1994 for $8.4 billion to help finance its bid for Paramount in the bidding war with QVC Network Inc. Blockbuster's stock trade had been dropping steadily the months before the merger, with a small rise after the deal was announced, and by the latter part of the decade its worth was estimated to have fallen to just $4.6 billion. The Blockbuster Block Party concept was test-marketed in Albuquerque, New Mexico and Indianapolis, Indiana in 1994. It was an entertainment complex aimed at adults, containing 8 themed areas housing a restaurant, games, laser tag arena and motion simulator rides, and was housed in a windowless building the size of a city block. During the 1990s, Blockbuster expanded in the United Kingdom, purchasing that country's Ritz video chain. The stores were rebranded to Blockbuster Video. The original Blockbuster company, Blockbuster Video Inc., was merged into the parent company Blockbuster Entertainment Inc., which had earlier replaced the Blockbuster Entertainment Company. In 1996, Blockbuster Entertainment Inc. merged into a new Blockbuster Entertainment Corporation, and the retail stores, then called Blockbuster Video, were renamed Blockbuster. The logo changed slightly but retained the ITC machine font. In November 1996, Blockbuster confirmed that it was moving its headquarters from Fort Lauderdale, Florida to the Renaissance Tower in downtown Dallas. Most of the workers at the Florida headquarters did not want to relocate, so Blockbuster planned to hire around 500 to 600 new employees for its Dallas headquarters. The company had offered various relocation packages to all of its Fort Lauderdale staff. The second Blockbuster Entertainment Corporation was later merged into Blockbuster Inc. In June 1997, Taco Bell president John Antioco resigned from the company to become CEO of Blockbuster. Also that year, Warner Bros. offered Antioco an exclusive rental deal, seeing as DVDs were emerging as the new home video medium. Blockbuster was to have rights to rent new DVD releases for a period of time before they went on sale to the general public. The studio was to receive 40% of rental revenues in return, which was the same deal already in place for VHS rentals. Blockbuster turned the offer down, and the studio responded by lowering its DVD wholesale price in order to compete with the rental industry. Walmart seized the opportunity and in a few years surpassed Blockbuster as the studio's single largest source of revenue. Other mass retailers soon followed suit. Many began selling DVDs below wholesale price in hopes of selling more items with better profit margins as a result of the additional foot traffic in their stores. Unable to match prices, Blockbuster's business model was severely impacted. In 1997, Enron Corporation had entered the broadband market, constructing and purchasing thousands of miles of fiber optic cables throughout the United States. In 2001, Enron and Blockbuster Inc. attempted to create a 20-year deal to stream movies on demand over Enron's fiber optic network. However, the heavily promoted deal fell through, with Enron's shares dropping following the announcement. In 1998, Blockbuster created Dej Productions, which acquired 225 films primarily to provide exclusive content to its Blockbuster stores prior to being sold off to First Look Studios in 2005. During that same year, Blockbuster bought the Irish video rental store Extravision with over 200 stores in Ireland and the UK. In 2009, Blockbuster sold off its Irish operations to Burkle Investments, with the few Extravision stores in the UK being rebranded as Blockbuster. In late 1998, Blockbuster launched a loyalty program called Blockbuster Rewards that allowed customers to earn free rentals, including one older title each month from the category of Blockbuster favorites. After the 1998 test launch, the chain went nationwide with the program in 1999. In August the same year, Viacom sold the Blockbuster music chain to Warehouse Entertainment, which was subsequently purchased by Trans World Entertainment in 2003. In mid-2000, the company partnered with Enron in an attempt to create a video-on-demand service. The agreement was supposed to last for 20 years, however Enron terminated the deal in March 2001 over fears that Blockbuster would not be able to provide sufficient films for the service. Also in 2000, Blockbuster turned down a chance to purchase the fledgling Netflix for $50 million. In 2002, Blockbuster acquired movie trading company, a Dallas chain that buys, sells and trades movies and games, to study potential business models for DVD and game trading. Also that year, it acquired GameStation, a 64-store UK computer and console games retailer chain, and purchased DVD Rental Central for $1 million, an Arizona father and son online DVD rental company with about 10,000 subscribers. DVD Rental Central would eventually become Blockbuster Online. On or around October 14, 2004, Blockbuster was spun off from Viacom. Online DVD subscriptions were introduced on Blockbuster.com, also known as Blockbuster Online. Blockbuster also rolled out its Game Rush store-in-store concept to approximately 450 domestic company-operated stores. Blockbuster began game and DVD trading in selected U.S. stores. At its peak in 2004, Blockbuster had more than 9,000 stores worldwide. In December 2004, Blockbuster announced its intention to pursue a hostile takeover of Hollywood Video, its major U.S. competitor. After several extensions of the tender offer, Blockbuster withdrew due to FTC opposition. To counter the Blockbuster offer, Hollywood Video agreed to a buyout in January 2005 by a smaller competitor, the Dothan, Alabama-based Movie Gallery. Since then, Movie Gallery has filed for bankruptcy twice, and its entire chain of Hollywood Video stores has been totally liquidated. In May 2005, business financier Carl Icahn waged a successful proxy fight to add himself and 2 other members to the board. Icahn accused Blockbuster of overpaying chairman and CEO John F. Antioco, who had served in that capacity since 1997, receiving $51.6 million in compensation for 2004. Icahn was also at odds with Antioco on how to revive profit at Blockbuster. Antioco scrapped late fees in January, started an internet service, and decided to keep the company independent, while Icahn wanted to sell out to a private equity firm. Also in 2005, Blockbuster began a campaign promoting its no more late fees policy. The campaign proved controversial, with Associated Press reporting that the new policy actually charged users the full price of the movie or game after 8 days, which they could cancel by returning the product in question and paying a fee. More than 40 states filed suit against the company for false advertising. Blockbuster later settled the suit by agreeing to refunds as well as promising to better explain the policy. Vintage Stock acquired the movie trading company name from Blockbuster in 2006 and continues to use the name for Dallas area stores. A billion-dollar campaign called Total Access was introduced in 2007 as a strategy against Netflix. Through Blockbuster Online, customers could rent a DVD online and receive a new movie for free when they returned it to a Blockbuster store. While it was a major success, every free movie cost the company $2, but the hope was that it would attract enough new subscribers to cover the loss. Netflix felt threatened, and Netflix CEO Reed Hastings approached Antioco with a suggestion to buy Blockbuster's online business. In return, a new system would be introduced where customers could return their movies to a Blockbuster store. Before the deal could be realized, board member Carl Icahn intervened, refusing to let the company lose more money through total access. Antioco was pushed out in July and replaced with James Keyes, who rejected Hastings' proposal, raised the price of online DVD rentals, and put an end to the free movie deal. As a consequence, Blockbuster Online's previously massive growth quickly stopped. Antioco's departure reportedly also involved continued controversy over his compensation. He left with a $24.7 million severance package. On June 19, 2007, after a pilot program launched in late 2006, Blockbuster announced that it had chosen Blu-ray over HD DVD format to rent in a majority of its stores. In the pilot program, Blockbuster offered selected titles for rental and sale in 250 stores. Blockbuster stocked Blu-ray titles in almost 5,000 stores across the United States, Canada, the United Kingdom, Mexico, and Australia. On July 2, 2007, the company named James W. Keyes, former president and CEO of 7-Eleven, as the new chairman and CEO. He introduced a new business strategy that included enhancements to existing stores. The following month, in August, Blockbuster acquired MovieLink for $6.6 million, forecasting a shift to streaming video. MovieLink was an online video service that allowed customers to download movie rentals from a library of over 6,000 films created in 2002 by 5 major studios, including Warner Bros., MGM Studios, Paramount Pictures, Sony Pictures, and Universal Studios. The move gave Blockbuster the opportunity to move away from the unprofitable total access a DVD by mail service in favor of online streaming. Despite growing competition from Netflix and Redbox, the company downplayed the threat, choosing instead to focus on Apple and Walmart as their primary competition. On September 14, 2007, Blockbuster GB Ltd bought a number of retail stores from Choices UK plc. Choices UK is an AIM-listed multi-channel distributor and retailer of DVDs, computer games, and CDs. The sale secured employment for approximately 450 employees across 59 stores in the UK. As part of the transaction, Blockbuster GB rebranded the stores as Blockbuster Video. On February 17, 2008, Blockbuster proposed a buyout of struggling Circuit City. However, after a due diligence review of Circuit City's financial books, Blockbuster withdrew its offer in July 2008. Analysts were not favorable to the proposed deal, viewing it as a desperate effort to save 2 struggling retailers rather than a bold turnaround initiative. Subsequently, Circuit City filed for bankruptcy on November 10, 2008, and after liquidating all of its stores, ceased operations on March 8, 2009, ending the retailer from the landscape. At the beginning of 2010, Blockbuster had over 6,500 stores, of which 4,000 were in the US, a number that fell to 3,425 in late October the same year. In the United States, it planned to close between 810 and 960 retail stores and instead launch as many American Samoa 10000 Blockbuster Express video rental kiosks by the middle of 2010. It has been claimed that more than 43 million U.S. households had Blockbuster memberships at the time. On February 10, 2010, Blockbuster announced that it would cease all its operations in Portugal, closing down 17 outlets and leaving over 100 workers unemployed. Blockbuster representatives in Portugal blamed internet piracy and the lack of government response to it as the key factors to the company's failure in the country of Portugal. In March 2010, Blockbuster began additional daily rates for rentals not returned by their due date in the United States, having already used this procedure in other countries such as the UK for many years. An additional daily rate was charged for each day a member kept the rental beyond the rental terms. On March 12, 2010, PricewaterhouseCoopers, Blockbuster's independent registered public accounting firm, issued its audit opinion disclosing substantial doubt about Blockbuster's ability to continue to run its business as a real going concern. This report was included in Blockbuster's as 10-K SEC filing. On March 17, 2010, Blockbuster issued a bankruptcy warning after continued drops in revenue threatened its ability to service its nearly $1 billion debt load. By April 1, 2010, business financier Carl Icahn had resigned from Blockbuster's board of directors and sold nearly all his remaining Blockbuster stock. Blockbuster paired up with Time Warner to have Warner Bros. Movies made available in Blockbuster stores on the DVD release date and not be subject to a 4-week delay, in which similar agreements were also made with Universal Studios and 20th Century Fox. The liquidation of Movie Gallery began in May 2010, eliminating Blockbuster's primary competitor. During the same month, the dissident shareholder Gregory S. Meyer, in an effort to be elected to Blockbuster's board of directors, engaged in a proxy battle with Blockbuster's board, alleging that the board had been responsible for significant destruction of value to shareholders. Meyer was elected to the board at Blockbuster's shareholder meeting in Dallas on June 24, 2010. On July 1, 2010, the company was delisted from the New York Stock Exchange after its shareholders failed to pass a reverse stock split plan aimed at heading off involuntary delisting because of the stocks trading at well below $1 per share. The stock was then traded over-the-counter bulletin board. Blockbuster was unable to make a $42.4 million interest payment to bondholders and was given until August 13, 2010 to pay off the debt. The company hired Jeff Stajenga to be its chief restructuring officer in an effort to satisfy bondholder demands and recapitalize the company. After failing to pay on August 13, bondholders gave Blockbuster until September 30, 2010. On August 26, 2010, news media reported that Blockbuster was planning to file a prepackaged Chapter 11 bankruptcy in mid-September. In light of this news, the company's chief financial officer Tom Casey resigned on September 11. He was replaced by Dennis McGill, formerly CFO of Safety Clean Systems Inc. On September 23, 2010, Blockbuster filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection due to challenging losses, $900 million in debt, and strong competition from Netflix, Redbox, and video-on-demand services. Hollywood Video had filed for Chapter 7 bankruptcy liquidation earlier in 2010 for similar reasons. At the time of its Chapter 11 filing, Blockbuster said it would keep its 3,300 stores open. However, that December it announced it would close an additional 182 stores by the end of April 2011 in attempts to emerge from bankruptcy. It was reported in February 2011 that Blockbuster and its creditors had not come up with a Chapter 11 exit plan and that the company would be sold for $300 million or more, along with taking over debts and leases. Blockbuster admitted that it might not be able to meet financial obligations required under its Chapter 11 filing, a circumstance which could mandate conversion of the bankruptcy filing to Chapter 7 liquidation. On March 1, 2011, the U.S. Department of Justice filed a claim disclosing that Blockbuster did not have the funds to continue reorganizing and should totally liquidate as soon as possible. On March 28, 2011, South Korean telecommunications company SK Telecom made a surprise bid to buy Blockbuster. Dish Network had also expressed interest in bidding, as did Carl Icahn, despite calling Blockbuster the worst investment I ever made. Dish eventually won the auction on April 6, 2011, agreeing to buy Blockbuster for $320 million and the assumption of $87 million in liabilities and other obligations. On April 19, 2011, it was announced that Dish would keep only 500 Blockbuster stores open. The acquisition was completed on April 26, 2011. In April 2011, Dish Network told the U.S. bankruptcy court that it needed more time to negotiate with landlords in an effort to keep more than 600 Blockbuster stores open. In April 2011, Blockbuster's landlords objected to its assumption of leases that it sought to assign to soon-to-be owner Dish Network Corp., claiming that they did not have adequate assurance that the new owner would honor those leases. Blockbuster signed a deal with ITV Studios Global Entertainment to launch ITV programs released on DVDs, Blu-rays, etc. On May 6, 2011, Keyes resigned as Blockbuster's CEO. Keyes was replaced by Michael Kelly under the new title of Blockbuster's president. On August 31, 2011, the liquidators announced the closure of the remaining of all 253 Canadian stores and shutting of the entire Canadian unit down. In September 2011, it was announced that Blockbuster and Dish Network would launch a new service called Blockbuster Movie Pass that would compete with Netflix. For $10 per month, the members would have access to both a streaming service and movies and games by mail. The package was only available for subscribers of Dish Network's pay TV service, and it eventually folded soon after. On January 13, 2012, Dish CEO Joe Clayton announced that while Dish had planned to keep 90% of the stores in operation, meaning around 15,000 employees would remain employed because of market factors, there are ones that aren't going to make it. Clayton did not say when these additional closings would happen and only remarked that some stores were unprofitable. The Dish chief would not say which stores the company was planning to close, but that each potential closing was to be assessed on a case-by-case basis. On October 4, 2012, Dish Network announced that it was scrapping plans to make Blockbuster into a Netflix competitor. On January 16, 2013, Blockbuster UK entered into administration and Deloitte was appointed to run the business while trying to find a buyer while some of the stores remained open. Between November 6, 2013 and January 12, 2014, all 300 remaining corporate-owned Blockbuster stores in the US were closed and the DVD by mail program was shut down. The Blockbuster official website identified 51 franchise locations remaining in operation in the US in 2014. Dish maintained its video streaming services Blockbuster On Demand and Blockbuster at Home until they were replaced in April 2015, called Dish Movie Pack. In May 2015, Michael Kelly retired from Dish. Blockbuster's decline was attributed to poor leadership, according to others in the industry. Previous franchise owner Ken Tischer said in 2015, Blockbuster, if it isn't already, is going to go into the Harvard Business Review for how not to run a business or how to run a business into the ground. Keith Hoog, landowner of Family Video, attributed poor decision-making as a primary reason the company did not survive. Jonathan Salem Baskin, a former Blockbuster marketing communications executive, stated digital would have changed Blockbuster's business for sure, but it wasn't its killer. That credit belongs to Blockbuster itself. Commentators view Blockbuster as a main example of failing to change with the times with the video market. Although Blockbuster stores could remain open by paying a licensing fee to Dish, there was no longer a corporate entity to provide supplies of branded products, forcing franchisees to design and produce their own. Additional store closures would continue. By January 2018, the company's website listed 9 remaining franchise-owned stores in the US, including 6 in Alaska, 2 in Oregon, and 1 in Texas. 8 of those 9 had closed by August 2018, leaving only 1 store in Bend, Oregon. In March 2019, the last remaining store outside of the United States, located in Morley, Western Australia, closed its doors. The Bend location became the last remaining Blockbuster in the world. It houses Russell Crowe film props, which John Oliver had donated to an Alaska store. In August 2020, the location was listed as an Airbnb rental for a 1990s themed sleepover on 3 separate nights in September. Each were limited to guests from the area in light of the COVID-19 pandemic. The entity that operated Blockbuster prior to the sale to Dish remains nominally active under the name BB Liquidating Inc. and trades as a penny stock. However, it no longer has any assets or ties to the Blockbuster brand or its remaining franchise location. In activity related to the GameStop short squeeze of January 2021, the BB Liquidating stock surged despite there being no value for the common shareholders in the bankruptcy liquidation process, even under the most optimistic of scenarios.
All the hits, all the time. Blockbuster Video.
We're taking you to the movies so you can bring the good times home. Everything you want to see, no matter who you are, we got your favorite star. All the hits, all the time.
Blockbuster Video.
All the movies that you want to find. All the hits, all the time.
Blockbuster Video.
Bring the good times home.
If you have any fond memories, please indicate it at the comments below. Thanks for watching, subscribe, and like.